Welcome to That's So Savvy, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories and journeys of remarkable business leaders. Join our host, Nancy Aichholz, a seasoned professional and experienced entrepreneur, on her mission to discover the recipe for business success.
Welcome to That's So Savvy podcast, where we dive deep into what makes businesses, and more importantly, the people behind them, so successful. I'm your host, Nancy Aichholz. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a former brand marketing executive, nonprofit leader, and the founder of That's So Sweet and Nan Cakes. I've spent my career building brands and businesses, mentoring women, and creating savvy strategies that work. In season 3, we're going all in on the savvy business of food. From fast, casual giants and small but mighty food options to mission-driven food nonprofits and bold culinary innovators. This season is all about the people reimagining what we eat, how we eat, and why food businesses matter more than ever. You'll hear straight talk from founders, chefs, CPG disruptors, grocery execs, and purpose-driven changemakers. We'll unpack what's working in the industry, from branding and packaging to scaling and storytelling, and what it really takes to build a food brand that sticks to your ribs, as they say. Whether you're a food lover, aspiring founder, or seasoned entrepreneur, or a full-blown food executive, this season will feed your mind, your soul, and maybe even your next big idea. So grab your favorite drink, or better yet, a cookie, and let's get savvy. That's So Savvy podcast is supported by wonderful listeners like you. If you would like to hear more of our podcast and be more involved, please go to patreon.com, patreon.com, and you can donate as little as $5 a month or as much as you'd like to support that So Savvy podcast. If you'd like to advertise and reach our rapidly growing audience, please email us at thatssosavvypod, P-O-D, @gmail.com. thatssosavvypod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And we look forward to bringing That's So Savvy podcast to you for a very long time in the future. Welcome back, savvy listeners. So excited to be well into our season 3, the savvy business of food. And we've talked to several different people already. You think about food, you think about things that are yummy and tasty and accessible and all the things. But sometimes we don't stop and think about, how does the food get to us in the first place? There's all kinds of different ways. You can grocery shop and cook yourselves, or when you don't feel like doing that, there's the restaurant industry. So today we have Lauren Fernandez, and she is the CEO and founder of Full Course, which is a restaurant development and investment firm that incubates and accelerates emerging food and restaurant brands, guiding brand owners through a process of optimization, strategic growth planning, and development. Sounds wonderful. She's also the managing partner of the Full Course Funds, which sounds even better, which support rapid expansion of restaurant brands through early stage investment, which we'll talk about it, but oh my gosh, I'm so excited about that because that's just a big, huge gap in our market. Lauren is an industry veteran with over 2 decades of experience as an attorney and an entrepreneur. That is a dangerous combination. With extensive expertise in restaurant and franchise operations and development, consumer product development, and brand licensing. She served as general counsel and head of franchise administration for Focus Brands, and then as the owner-operator of 11 Chicken Salad Chick franchised restaurants. Okay, we got to get to her story at some point in this because I love that story. Lauren holds an MBA and a Juris Doctor from Emory University and is a certified franchise executive. Wow, this is going to be a great conversation. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Nancy.
Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty of how you're saving the restaurant world, who is Lauren Fernandez? Who are you? Tell us all about yourself.
Well, I'm an Aries and my favorite
Oh,
color is blue.
okay.
Um,
I'm an Aries too. What do you know?
I think when you ask anyone who knows me, they're not going to answer with all the industry nomenclature and the education and all the things that you just lovingly read out, which is humbling actually to have someone else read that out
Yeah,
loud.
when you hear about yourself, right? You're like,
That's the
wow, I'm
extent
pretty
of my
amazing.
career. Yeah. But as a human being, I am born a fixer and
Mhm.
love to help people grow and better themselves and their businesses. I'm a bit of a MacGyver. Like I love fixing complex situations and finding elegant and efficient and smart solutions. I'm probably better at fixing something and helping it scale rather than even building it from scratch, which is ironic because I am a founder that built something does exactly that for the restaurant industry. Look, I'm a daughter of I'm first generation Cuban American. My father came to this country when he was 10. I just spent some time with him on a wonderful trip out west. And I'm just reminded of so much of my hustle, my drive, and my ambition comes from being the very proud daughter of that extraordinary human. I get a little clumped even talking about it. My mom was a force in her own right before she passed in my early 20s from a very cancer. And the reason I mention that is because there is a story there too of where my drive and my motivation comes from. I just have had unfortunate truth to learn very early in life that every day is precious and every day is a gift. And so you couple that with that sort of what I lovingly call immigrant drive and hustle to do better as a generation that was brought here, that fought to be here, that appreciates the opportunities that this country provides. It's a lot of motivation for me. And I think underneath all of this is a notion that everything that I've been given in life, opportunity, talent, experience, education, is made more meaningful when I can use it in service to others. And great if we can make money doing that too, right? So
That's always a bonus.
try to really walk that fine line of being very conscious in our approach to capitalism, but also very mindful about how we collaborate with founders and encourage and incentivize them to grow as leaders, but also in their business as well.
I love that. Wow. Well, that's a wonderful story. And that could be an entire podcast in itself of the immigration process and the coming and being successful, and then next generation taking it to the next new level, which I'm sure your dad is extremely proud of you and your mom is too. So you did have a tough 20s in your early life. That's really tough to lose your mom that young.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And now you're a mom. So some of today, what we talk about is looking at everything you do and how you're doing it, but you're also always looking through that working parent lens, which most of us do at some point, but you're right in the thick of it. And I think an inspiration for people younger than you that are trying to do it all, which is not easy. But let's talk about Full Course and how you have this amazing background. How did you get from Chicken Salad Chick, and we're going to back up and talk about that too, but how did you get from Chicken Salad Chick to founding Full Course and then growing it to where it is today?
I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this, Nancy, as the company continues to evolve and grow and has finally reached a place that I think more accurately matches my original vision for it. It's given me a lot of time to really go back and kind of unpack all the things that have happened, all the things we've responded to, all the ways we've had to take tiny pivots and course corrections, et cetera. And really where this came from was my own personal experience. I bought the rights with some partners to develop Chicken Salad Chick in the Atlanta, Augusta, and Athens markets. At the time, it had 3 significantly underperforming units that came with the deal and a lot of development obligations, just a lot. And I got in there and really went from executive to operator pretty much overnight. Like I do, I just realized this is why I'm great as counsel too. Like I really want to deeply understand businesses and break them down to their component parts, understand how it all comes together. And that always made me exceptionally good at my job as counsel. But it also, in this situation, helped me figure out how that system operated and where we could accelerate our own growth with our expertise and our resources as a franchisee. And so flash forward, we were at about 11 units. We had also had 3 non-traditional units, a full catering system, 450 to 500 employees. And my partners and I started to explore the value of the company and a potential exit, which ultimately led to us selling to private equity in late 2018. As part of that journey, I raised with my partners almost $10 million in capital to fund our deal and our growth, et cetera. Lots of it was well-structured debt, et cetera. And I saw kind of firsthand how hard that experience can be, even when the business has all the right numbers and we had all the right credentials and all the right reputation behind us. It was extraordinarily difficult to get from unit 3 to unit 11. And we had 3 more in process or under construction of some kind, plus those 3 other non-trad units and a whole catering business that we were running. After I sold the business, I took a sabbatical, and I was 40 at this point, and I really was struggling to unpack some of the things that had happened that felt inefficient and, dare I say, unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think for the first time in my life, had the first real dose of what it was like to be a woman and a Latina in finance, because that's really where I saw a lot of obstacles. So
It's amazing to me that it's 2025. I always say it isn't easy for anyone to get money. It's harder the more layers you add on. Woman, minority. I think if you ask the average great guy in business, if that's true, they don't even really realize it's true because they don't have to experience it. And they certainly don't support that, but it is what it is. And we're all trying to fix it. And I don't know what the fix is, really, other than just good prep.
I will tell you, I struggled with that exact question because I am a person who reacts very viscerally to injustice and inequity. Call it background, call it personality. It doesn't even matter. That's just something with me. Like,
It's just your buttons.
It's just my button. And as I sat there, what really bothered me about it was such an inefficient moment for us in various times of our development to have to go out and court 15 different banks, to have to refinance a deal because a bank just suddenly decided one day they weren't doing, air quotes here, restaurants anymore. Whatever those struggles were, fine. The lessons I learned, I was just determined to unpack the experience and learn from it. I'm like, I am not going to let this make me a negative human. Like, this is just how I am. I have to figure out why this happened and how it doesn't happen again. As a born entrepreneur, I knew this wasn't going to be my last rodeo, and I'll be damned if I'm going to go out and like let this happen to me again.
Right.
First thing that I unpacked was, look, there just are not a lot of people that look like me in the land of finance who are writing checks, whether it's debt or it's equity. It is overwhelmingly a white and male industry. It always has been. It still is. And for what it's worth, I have worked in both corporate America. I've worked in restaurants. I've worked in big pharma. I've worked in law firms. And there are still so many barriers to women in finance that I think I was just woefully unprepared for that. It just didn't even occur to me, I'll be honest. That was kind of like number one. I think number two, you're looking at the 3rd largest industry in the United States. It's over $1 trillion contributing to GDP every single year. And yet, 85% of the restaurants are less than 3 units. And 2/3 of them are 1 unit and never scale past that. So we are an overwhelmingly independent and locally run and operated industry. And when you sit with that fact for a minute and you think about the fact that there really is a lack of financing of any kind for these businesses to grow and grow well, it suddenly tracks why so many brands are stuck at that level, right? It's the overwhelming majority of the restaurants in the US. So stated another way, only 15% of the restaurants are actually kind of like chains that you think about or that we see in the newspaper all the time. Really shocking to me that in such a massive industry, there's not a capital structure that matches that early stage investment. Mm-hmm. We don't have venture capital. We don't have anything that's akin to really, I think, consistent lending other than SBA. And it's largely dependent on local and regional banks,
right?
Which unfortunately regularly hear the word restaurant and just go equal risk.
Yes.
And I want to dispose everyone of the notion right now that restaurants are inherently risky as a business. They are a more frequently occurring entrepreneurial model based on all of the stats that we see. Business licenses are more regularly filed in food, beverage, hospitality, and tourism than any other industry. So when you see these fail rate numbers, they're not normalized for volume.
Good point.
Crazy. It's not necessarily any more or less risky than any other entrepreneurial venture. And yet we get slapped with that label all the time, which really bothers me. So just want to say that. I think the third thing I will say is that when you look at who owns these single unit restaurants, so let's just call it 1 to 3 units, independent, they are overwhelmingly underrepresented founders. They are women. They are minorities. And so there is this alignment that exists with consumer behavior. The restaurants that you love to eat at are locally owned and operated overwhelmingly, and yet they don't have the resources to grow. And so fundamentally, it's a capital issue. Like, how do we structure and get the capital in the hands of the people who need it? And then as a secondary matter, how do we invest in a founder-led business so they are coached and trained on the right ways to scale to reduce that risk to the extent it exists in going from unit 1 to 10, 10 to 30, 100. For me, the notion of full course was solving a problem of not only capital, but the coaching and the consulting as well. To us, it has to come hand in hand. And that is fundamental to how we view ourselves as partners in business and in scale. It's how we approach investment and frankly, how we de-risk our position as investors.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, you've hit all the points of the things that are challenges. And I think another thing that I've noticed in the food industry, but also in other industries that women tend to, and women and minorities tend to gravitate towards, is there's this label that we get that's always just irked the heck out of me when they call us lifestyle businesses. What the heck? What business is not a lifestyle business? Or why do we even have to use that word? If every business starts small and grows, why are we stuck with this label? It's almost like a hobby. Instead, it just drives me nuts.
Nancy, the other thing I will say is that I'm going to focus on the Latino segment as a specific example. We are 20% of the U.S. population and represent over 40 countries unified under one language. We are 28% of the restaurant workforce, and we are overwhelmingly in that 28% in lower paying back of house jobs that are unsalaried. There is also this notion that there's a sort of differentiation between skilled and unskilled labor in a restaurant when those positions in back of house are the anchor and backbone of the restaurant industry. There's a joke saying, like, if you want good Italian food, you want good Japanese food, you want good insert culture here, there's going to be someone who's Hispanic in the kitchen making it. It's kind of an alarming joke, but it's absolutely accurate. And it's depiction of what's really happening in the stats in the industry. And so there's also this disrespect for people who cook the food for us. And let's be clear, you need food, you need shelter, you need water and air to live. And so people who are actively providing for this country, right? One of our key elements for survival, as we saw during COVID, like, there are people on this planet who do not know how to boil water in their own home.
And I'm not unbelievable to me, but yes.
I'm not one of them, but I have friends like this and I love them because they come over here and I cook for them all the time, right?
That's great.
I'm like, bring a bottle of wine. We're good. But here's the thing, like, there's somehow this disrespect for the trade, for the craft of cooking. I just in the same way you sort of identified this labeling of air quotes here, lifestyle businesses or hobby businesses, I think there's also a generalized disrespect for the skill of cooking. And yet we are more than happy to pay for it when it's delivered to our door via Uber Eats or DoorDash.
Exactly. And I think how we put the very, very small percentages of those very high-end chefs, the Daniel Beards and all that, up way on a pedestal. But where do people think they came from? They didn't just wake up one day and be who they are. trying to cultivate the next generation of the cooking culture, the sharing of food culture. All of our communities everything is based around eating. You go to a football game, you're eating things. You go to a tailgate party first. You have a party, would never have a party without food. We have to eat 3 times a day. Like you said, so many people don't cook. And that was one of the reasons that inspired this season of That's So Savvy podcast, is that I love food. I love to cook and entertain. I love to make people happy with food. But I also see it as just, especially what we saw during COVID. If we can keep our food supplies, whether that's a restaurant, a grocery store, our food banks, everything, if we can keep those vibrant and healthy, that solves a lot of problems. Brings people together. People aren't hangry out there. There's just so much that this industry has to offer. So I think what you're doing is just fabulous. And is there anybody else out there that's doing what you do?
No, I think as far as I know, we're the only firm that has an operations team that is in place as subject matter experts to guide, coach, and advise these businesses that we invest in as portfolio companies and their founders, obviously. It was intentionally designed that way. So as a private equity firm, one of the pieces of criticism that we've gotten openly for 5 years is you got this huge team. Why? I'm like, well, they're the ones that vet, clean up, get these deals ready for investment, recruit these founders. There are subject matter experts that can help us identify runway for growth in these businesses. And so it's as much sourcing and management as it is just sort of the optics of, hey, like we know what we're doing. We're not just writing checks. Like we're here alongside helping guide and steer the growth of the business, because fundamentally the team at Full Course are growth experts. Yes, we may be marketing, talent, and operations experts, but we are always focused on growth, both of people and the brand. And so we're definitely more of an operations-oriented investment firm. We are also unique in the sense that we are early stage. I think a lot of firms will throw that around. They are neither built for it, nor are they really looking for those deals. They're hungry and looking for something, but very, very few investment firms of our size will actually write a check to a restaurant with 3 units. It's just incredibly uncommon. You're more likely to get direct investment or angel investment at that size, where we come in and run a very structured playbook with a specific holding period and partner with founders in that way. It is a model that is highly repeatable that we plan on doing for the next 20, 30, 40 years, right? This has been built as a process and a system for the last 5 to 6 years. And so all of that work on the infrastructure that nobody sees is what's about to kick off in a very rapid pace. Very interesting turning point in the company's history that I'm very proud of. But it's also been a very challenging time. I have no bones about owning that. Like, it's post-COVID has been one of the most difficult times to launch a company like this, because individual restaurant profitability is down. It makes investors extremely jittery, everything that's been going on in the economy the last 2 years. The stats on what private equity raises have looked like in the last 12 to 18 months are abysmal. But yet, our model is still attracting attention, constantly attracting investors, constantly attracting deals. So we know we're doing things right. I just will say, me in 2019 envisioning this, thought, 3 to 4 years, not.
Well,
but here we are.
A whole lot happened between 2019 and now.
Here we are. And here we are.
Yeah. So, the only good news about the economy is it's like the weather. Just wait, it'll change. We just don't know when or how exactly.
That's so true. And I will say, Nancy, it is also true of our industry. When we are up, we attract a lot of holiday or vacation investors who want to pop in when we're up and put some money in and say that they do restaurant investment. But the real backbone of the investment in this space are usually operators, executives, people who have industry acumen and understand that style of investment. And they're not rattled by short-term blips. They ride it for the long haul, which is also another reason why I prefer a private equity model, because it's less about the short-term performance, or about the longer 5 to 7 year period of performance.
Right, and that's how much time it takes.
Yeah.
You're not going to change things overnight just because you infuse funds.
That is a very true statement, my friend.
Yeah. And I don't think people really necessarily always understand that.
No.
Let's walk through the process. So let's say I have a concept and I'm in business. Let's say I've got my one location. Maybe I'm trying to get 2 or 3. I'm in that stage. I'm a woman. I'm a woman in food. I'm struggling to get funding. I've tapped out my friends and family. I've got my lines of credit tapped out. I come to you for help. What's the process? What does my future look like with Full Course?
So one of the things that we have built into Full Course is optionality. So we never want founders to feel like they have to take an equity investor, because the most expensive equity you will ever take is the first bite of that apple, because someone is going to come in and value the business at its current, probably low valuation, and demand a larger percentage of the company in exchange for cash, right? And so in our case, we always want to be founder first in our approach. We're very transparent in our terms. And our approach is to, number 1, evaluate the business. Number 2, evaluate the founder. Number 3, present options to said founder. So if you are coming in and you are too early stage for us, our feedback will give you directional advice where you need to be focusing, where you need to fix things. We usually will also provide free resources through our nonprofit foundation at that time. So if there's anything we can connect you to, other agencies, other lenders, like different resources for you, we will freely give that advice and ask that you keep in touch with us so that we can continue to help and guide, because nothing drives me crazier than an investor ghosting you. Trust me, awful. Like, hey, just give me a no and maybe 3 bullet points why, so I can be better. And so part of what you have to do if you are in the business of serving underrepresented founders is you have to give them some clue of where to go. We don't send people away without a clue. Now, will they listen or not is really an interesting gatekeeping process, because the ones who listen and come back to us with results, like 3 months later, we listen, we have flags up for that all the time. We're like, green flag, because that's a founder who is willing to receive feedback, is action-oriented, and then takes the feedback and the action and gets a result. That's exactly what we're looking for, right? We don't want a founder who is like, you know what, just write me another check and another check and another check, and I just need more money. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. And I'll check in with you in 20 years.
Exactly. It's just not how we're wired. It's not how we're built. So there's, I think on one side of the spectrum, that founder that's maybe a little too early stage, or the numbers aren't quite right. But when we're running an analysis on your profit and loss statement, we're going to give you direct feedback. Like, this is off by 5 points. This is off by 2. And here's what we would suggest you do. And we send them off and see what happens. I think that's kind of one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, we see a founder who comes in, they have a strong team. They've evidenced that the business is cash flowing. They've achieved some measure of scale. Maybe they've had one misstep and figured out how to recover, regroup, and keep going. And the business has a level of stability to it that on a financial metric alone is interesting to us, notwithstanding the founder's team, and the product market fit. So is it in a category that we're interested in? Do we think that there's room? Is the brand differentiated? Do we see ways we could tweak this and make it even better? That's sort of the other extreme. And it goes kind of into a graduated diligence process that we've designed custom at Full Course and that is proprietary. So we build on our diligence process, and the lawyer in me really struggled with this, because you want to go kind of full bore in the beginning, but it's too expensive for a founder and for us to do that to every brand. So what we do is a collaborative discovery process early on that's behind an NDA. And if they pass that initial vetting process, and we put matrix scoring around this, and we put it in front of our fund advisory council, which is our LPs who are investors, always see our deal flow and comment on it. And that helps us really pull out of that pool the ones that do deserve a letter of intent and more robust diligence. And that's how we get our deal pipeline stacked. Now, one thing that's interesting, Nancy, is we have a lot of deals, a lot. And so we have to be very careful about how we balance them, not only for geography, but category, day part segmentation, and also just timing. Like, we don't have a huge team. I can't overwhelm my team and do 6 deals at once. We try to stagger them in sequence. But we're very candid with founders about that. And we always will err on the side of being too transparent under NDA, of course, where we are and putting them in our cycle. And it's not to make them feel like they're not important, but rather you came in at a certain time and now you're in queue. That's just how this works. And because we want every founder to feel like they're getting the full attention when they are truly onboarded to full course. And that does take some orientation as well after the deal closes.
Is there an average investment that you make, or are you all over the board?
No, that's a great question. I think our smallest check size to date is about 2.5 million. We will do deals up to 20 million. Sometimes those deals are structured a little differently. They may have co-investors alongside full course, but we are able to do deals from about, let's just say 2 to 20 million.
Wow. So you are fundraising all the time.
We literally are. I mean, full course is a machine. We're designed to do approximately 2 to 4 deals a year, depending on size. And that really starts to kick off this fall. I think one of the things that's actually up for debate right now is the structure with which we fundraise, like inside the fund. Like, how does that look? Like, is the fund size always going to be a certain size, or do we do it kind of on a rolling call basis? I mean, there's a lot of different functional finance and legal mechanisms that we could use to make the fundraising machine just constantly perpetual. And I think at the end of the day, that's what every general partner and managing partner of a firm wants. Like, you want the capital raise to be as efficient as possible to match the deal cycle. And we have gotten mature enough as a company that the deal cycle is now solid. Like, we can point to our pipeline and identify exactly who the next 10 investments are.
Oh, great.
But you have to make the raise cycle look kind of as efficient. And that's what we're working on now.
Wow. That's a lot to keep flying around in the air, but impressive for sure. So have you been around long enough then that you're starting to see exits?
No, I don't think we'll see any exits probably until maybe 2 years from now.
That's not long.
Our first investments are about 2 years old at this point. Yeah. And then there are some in pipe that might have a shorter trigger. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a bit of a moving target, but not yet.
Yeah. Not yet. Well, it's still out there.
PE is a long game. PE is a long game, my friend.
Yes, it is. It is for sure. Kept saying I've got to go back to Chicken Salad Chick. So I had listened to the podcast. Remind me of the founder's name. I'm going blank.
Oh, Stacey Brown.
Yeah. I would listen to her podcast on Guy Raz, How I Built It.
How I Built This.
Yeah, How I Built This. And I was just fascinated, mostly because her story is just so profound as a person, everything. And then just her, what the word is, stick-to-itiveness, tenacity was unbelievable.
She is such a walking example of grace and grit.
Oh, I love it.
She is just polished, gentle, loving, kind human.
Yeah.
Who has just an extraordinary amount of grit behind her that I don't think you see often in women, especially in business, and has managed to maintain both sides of her in a way that I constantly check back to, because I think it's really easy to get disillusioned and dark and get stuck in the gritty side of this and get chewed up by it, get scuffed up.
Yeah. Well, she did along the way. I mean, she really got kicked around from life.
See, I think that is just a quarter of her story. I think so much more there to tell, and it's her story, not mine. But it is one of the reasons that I chose that brand. Yeah, was meeting Stacey, and at the time, her husband Kevin and co-founder Kevin was still alive, and just the privilege of meeting the two of them, seeing them in their element, understanding what they had built and how rare and extraordinary it was, even when it was 30-something units. And I think when we bought in. To me, I just knew. I knew how special it was, and I was absolutely right.
Wow.
Absolutely right.
So what's the story behind how you got into that? I think it's a good one.
Yeah. So I was looking to invest. I had some capital of my own to invest, and I wanted an operating business so I could get some operational expertise in restaurants. I had gotten that advice from a mentor. He's like, look, like, you're bigger and badder than, air quotes here, just a general counsel. Like, for you to be considered in a C-suite position outside of that legal acumen, you need ops experience. And I'd seen all these franchisees come through. I'd probably done hundreds of deals while I was at Focus, sitting in my seat, and seen all of these franchisees come in, work the system, and make so much money. I'm like, I'm on the wrong side of this equation. This makes so much sense. So when I had the opportunity to move on from Focus, I was sure I was going to buy a franchised restaurant. I was just sure of it. And I was really shopping for brands to buy, and someone recommended Chicken Salad Chick. I called up, ring, ring, and they finally returned my call. And they're like, yeah, sorry, the whole territory is sold. Click. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of stinks. Flash forward, we were vetting other brands. I had taken partners at this point. We had agreed we were going to do something at scale. And as it were, this is a true story, one of my business partners lived in the same neighborhood as the current owner of the territory for Chicken Salad Chick and was looking to exit the investment. And I think they were just maybe looking for a new operating partner. I don't know. I don't really remember the exact details, but we had a meeting. And ultimately, over the course of many months, a couple casual offers float back and forth. Meanwhile, we're vetting other deals. And I said, I think we should just wait. Let's just see what happens. It's a seasonal brand. Let's wait. And so sure enough, I think it was Thanksgiving. It was the day after Thanksgiving. I was home in Florida visiting my family, and I got a call that they were basically make us an offer.
Wow.
And we ended up stepping into ownership in Q1 of that next year. And
what year is this at that point?
That was 2015.
Okay.
Early 2015. I remember we opened a Peachtree City location, and I was there as the presumptive new owner, although the deal had not officially closed yet. It had to be approved by the franchisor, et cetera. So I had already gone to brand training, and I was at this opening, and it was freezing, sleet, hail, everything. Peachtree City, and God bless the people in Peachtree City. They drive golf carts down there like it's a thing. They are golf carts queued up in the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
Grand opening, and they were it was so cold outside. We didn't want them standing outside. So we snaked them into the building, cleverly kind of wrapped them around the booths and gave them all a number so they would be in order.
Wow.
It was the most frenetic, crazy openings, but we took over pretty quickly. And within the next 20 months or so, we opened another 8 units. I built 8 and launched units. So we had a total store count of 11 within less than 3 years. I think it was about 24 months or 26 months.
That's amazing. And then what was the story on getting out of the business?
I think we were just at an inflection point. And so this is a very common thing, not just for franchisees, but for any business. We were doing very good EBITDA numbers in the multi-millions. So the profit margin was there. And we were at a point where Lauren plus 2 wasn't going to get it done anymore. We needed to build an ops team. I was okay, I understand I was the operating partner, but
yeah,
I can't be 14 hours a day, 7 days, well, actually 6 days a week, because I would use the Sundays that the business was closed to basically catch up on all the admin. I was the person getting the call when the walk-in cooler went down at 2 a.m. And it's funny, to this day, that's still a question I ask founders about understanding who's in charge of operations and what their depth of bench looks like on the team. Who gets that call when the walk-in cooler goes down in the middle of the night? Yeah. And they all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
And so we had a decision to make. Either we kept going and growing and invested back into our company and built out a team, or we needed to shop the value of the business. And I think either way, the lesson that I learned from my partner in that situation is everything is for sale always. Mm-hmm. Always know the value of the business. So I would regularly have to answer him on that. And at that point, we had gotten to a significant amount of profit and achieved a certain amount of scale that was interesting. And so we had the company valued, and it was a function of okay, now we have options. Is this the right time to exit? Do we want to buy out a partner? There were just a number of different ways we could have thought about it. In the end, I think we realized we were sitting on a massive territory that would have been better suited as the brand's headquarters. At the time, the headquarters was in Auburn, and we were sitting on the whole Atlanta market and had great plans for it, but also realized that might have been just the right time. So we put a book together and we shopped the deal with an investment bank. And what ended up happening was the franchisor executed their right of first refusal. And so we ended up in discussions with the franchisor. And that is basically how that deal came together. So it ended up getting sold back to the private equity owners who helped fund at that time. And it was just one of those moments where I think everyone assumed I was emotionally attached to it. I wasn't. I mean, it's business. And I think whether you want to assume that because I'm a woman or because I'm passionate about what I do, go ahead, underestimate me. We'll see how that plays out for you.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing is when somebody underestimates me. Go right ahead.
No, I don't really care. I don't, to me, it's just potato, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
Partners and I all got together. We made a decision on how we were going to exit, and we exited together. I think that was the best thing for everybody involved. I don't think anyone has any hurt feelings about that. It worked out great all the way
Sounds
around.
perfect.
And
Yeah, ideal.
became a launching pad for the brand here in Atlanta, where there is a definitive central focus of restaurant talent, restaurant executives, vendors, suppliers. It's the largest concentration of restaurant HQs in the United States.
Oh, I didn't
and
know
also
that. Interesting.
franchise businesses as well.
Wow.
Sometimes you just got to know when to get out of the way. And that just felt like the right thing to do. It's hard to explain. There were so many dimensions to it, but that's the truth. I mean, it just was the right time.
No, that's perfect. And I love that message of don't be married to the business. You can be passionate. You can be excited about it, passionate. That's your brand. And that to be a part of your brand, you do have to be attached to it and excited about it. But the best negotiating tactic ever is never be afraid to walk away. Never be so attached that you can't walk away, because you may be walking into the great next thing. You may be walking into an amazing acquisition opportunity that you didn't see coming. And if you are functioning on emotion, you can't make those decisions. And you could very much miss just a prime opportunity. So I think that's a great lesson.
Nancy, if there is one message I can give to founders everywhere, it is you are not your business. Repeat, you are not your business, right? So there is sometimes too much of an emotional attachment to the result of the business and to what it means to their ego. And pretty much categorically, when I see founders making bad decisions, it's tied to an ego view of the business. Like, I built this. It's my baby. It's when I hear things like that, you can almost guarantee they're not thinking about it like a business person, which may not be immediately problematic, but it will be at some point when a decision has to be made and everyone around the table is saying advice, 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 and there's alignment, and you're still like, la, 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 caught in ears and saying things like, but I can't do that. It's my baby. I'm like, no. We emotional block there.
Yeah.
And look, I say this as a founder who I put together an advisory board that's not afraid to say things to me, that all have different areas of expertise and perspective. We take feedback from our investors. And I get beat up plenty, trust me. Like, I get lots of feedback, but I don't take it to bed and take it to sleep with me at night when I put my head on my pillow. Use that advice to be better the next day. And then I stop ruminating on it. Period.
Right.
That's it. And I think for most founder-led businesses, that is just the trickiest thing, is it cannot be an expression of you so much that you get divorced from the realities of being a business owner.
Right. It's that concept of work on your business, not in it, to some extent on the emotional side. And the idea that if you were looking at your business from the outside, what decisions would you have that business make? And if they're dramatically different than the decisions you can make being in the business, then you need to separate. You need a little break there. This has been a great discussion, and we could talk all day and all night. We had such a great time getting to know each other a few weeks ago. 2 quick things. I know we mentioned at the beginning, you are a working parent. So just a quick couple thoughts on how that's been for you.
Yeah, I have to actually jump off to his parent-teacher conference like right now. So
perfect timing.
I will quickly answer this question. Yeah. I had the good fortune of having a child later in life. I was 40 when I had my son, and he's now almost 6. And I built a business that very mindfully allowed me to be present, physically present, mentally and emotionally present for him. And as he gets older and I see the fruition of that structure kind of mature in both the business and my availability for my son, I have such a profound amount of empathy and understanding for other parents who don't have that level of control over their schedule. I give a lot of grace to other working parents, and I'm going to just generally say this shout out for caregivers too. I've been a caregiver for sick family members multiple times in my life. And I think we all need to be walking through life right now with an awareness and understanding of all of the unpaid labor that goes into those situations. Not just moms, dads, step parents, bonus parents, caregiving, like all of it. And I did this interesting quiz the other day, and it was like just designed to show me how much work was tied up and all the time I spent on that. And Nancy, it was $175,000 a year. And if I could give one piece of advice to working parents, is be very real about the time value of your money and your effort and where you're putting it, right? So where we are missing the mark is we are not valuing our time appropriately. And maybe because I'm a lawyer and I always had to think about my billable hours when I started my career that way, I am acutely aware of the value of an administrative assistant. I know the ROI on that like the back of my hand. I know what it means for someone to pick up my son for me and so I don't have to spend 2 hours in traffic. I also know what it is for me to pick him up and to have that time in the car with him where we talk and we make jokes and we sing songs. So like, I am very, very careful with my time because if there's one thing that losing a parent early in life has taught me is time is our most precious asset. I would encourage all working parents to think long and hard before you work that extra hour at work or before you spend the time mowing the lawn. Is there a better way to get that done so you can have that time back? And when you get that time back, where should you be putting it? I am just so methodical about this, even down to my kids make fun of me because I have time limits on their phones and their devices, but I have them on mine too. Nice. Because I need to be on text. I don't need to be on work email after 6 p.m. I don't need to be on Instagram doom scrolling until 2 a.m. Have some accountability for your own time allocation, not just understanding the value of your time, but also where you're putting it.
I love that. Well, I think every parent listening is going to be cheering and taking that great advice. I love it. Well, I'm not going to keep you from the parent-teacher conference because that is critical. But Lauren, thank you so much. Very quickly, I always like to ask, what's in your oven? What's coming up?
I am really stretching hard into places that I miss right now. So I miss doing consumer packaged goods. I miss doing product development, which is it's sometimes ancillary to our investments, but not the core. And I'm looking and focusing on advisory and board positions that allow me to flex that muscle. And I miss it. So for me, that's really where I'm focusing right now, just making sure I have job satisfaction and alignment.
Yep.
Because I've been a founder for 6 years. I've worn all the hats and now I've kind of handed them off. And I'm trying to figure out now, how do I refill my bucket with the stuff I love doing? And that's kind of where the vibe is right now.
I love it. I love it. Well, I hope to join you in that. I'm on the same page. So Lauren, so great to finally actually see you and have this conversation. I know you and I are going to be in touch and having all kinds of fun together with things in the future. But thank you for being a guest. I think our listeners are just going to love this episode. There's just so much richness to it. And it's just a whole different way to look at food in our society and how it gets to us and what are the challenges along the way. So that when you go to your local restaurant and you get maybe a little frustrated because you have to wait or whatever, that you're frustrated because the prices go up, you'll kind of understand that this is a business and they have to function as a business as much as everybody else. And I think your program is just right on point. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks so much for tuning in to That's So Savvy podcast, the savvy business of food. I'm Nancy Aichholz, and I hope today's episode left you happy, energized, and maybe even a little bit hungry for more. If you loved what you heard, make sure to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share this episode with your fellow foodies and founders. You can also find bonus content, behind-the-scenes stories, and more at that'ssosavvy.com, on our Substack, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, and follow us on Instagram at That's So Savvy Podcast. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and stay savvy.